hello, and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, I have the pleasure of having a fabulous guest that's coming back to be with us again. His name is Tom Stratford. He's an actor and author based in New York. And I had the pleasure of having him when I started this show 3 years ago, and he's been kind enough in his busy schedule and our busy schedule, he's been able to come back and be with us again today. So Tom, thanks so much for being here. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Deb. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Oh my goodness, I am so thrilled you accepted my invitation. Thanks so much.
No problem. Pleasure for you.
You know what I'd like to do, which we did last time, is to talk about the history of the guest. So why don't you update the viewer as to your background? Tell us about yourself. How did you get started in the business?
In the business. Okay. So, I live in Nyack. I'm in a riverfront town. I was always in the city. I always knew that I wanted to get involved with film and television at an early age. And I started doing theater, local theater. And one show right after the other, and then I was introduced to background work, and a couple of movies were in production in New York, and I got on one called The Cadillac Man, which is where I met you.
Exactly.
And there was one job right after the other, joined Screen Actors Guild, and then it became a career. So this is it. It's a career. And along with that, I met some very interesting people along the way.
Did you know, now, we're going to talk about your book, Along Came Zita, and it's a wonderful book that I told you about that I read from cover to cover right away. I didn't stop, but the whole beginning of it had to do with you and becoming entrenched in theater and your love of it. Did you pursue theater as you were moving along in your acting career? Are you doing theater now?
I did. I was doing theater. I started when I was a teenager and into my early 20s to mid 20s. And then I started doing a lot of film work. But I always went back to theater one way or another. Anytime that I wanted to take a lesson, I would take a theater class, an improv class, something that would kind of like sharpen me up every once in a while. So, and yeah, just recently, about 4 years ago, I did a play called Mornings at 7, and that was a delight. It's always great to be back on stage. There's no place in the world like it.
To the actor that's listening to us now, you grew up living your life and started with theater. Do you think it's a good way for somebody to get started in the arts?
Absolutely. Anywhere that you want to go in a business or whatever it is that you plan on doing, if you want to get involved in the arts and you want to get involved in show business, theater is the best way to do it. You wind up on stage, you can figure it out right away whether you've got what it takes or not.
Now,
that's what I recommend. Anybody that says, well, my daughter or my son, they're looking to get involved in television and they want to do this and they want to do that, that's all great. Get in front of a live audience and kind of like monitor yourself from there, and you grow from there. And once you can do that, you can do anything.
When you were in theater, did you know that you wanted to look at television, film, commercials, etc.? Did you know that you wanted to broaden your horizons?
Yes, I knew that I wanted to do that first. Before I got involved with theater, I knew that I wanted to do that, and I didn't know how. And everywhere you go, when you're on a film set, when you're on a television set, you're on a stage. Whatever it is, it's a stage. So once you've kind of mastered being on a stage, you've got some kind of control over how you want to grow with it. If that makes any sense.
What do you like the best? I mean, you've dabbled in most everything. Is there anything that you love the most?
That I love the most? I love doing theater, and it's a different high than it is when you're on a movie set or a television set. I can't compare them. I can't compare them. There's non-comparable. But I love them both equally. How's that?
Now you have been in the industry for many, many, many years. Tell us what the Screen Actors Guild is. What does your SAG card mean to you?
Well, it was when you're non-union, the thing that you want to do is you want to be able to get better jobs. You want to, pump up your resume. You want to do what the union members are doing. And it's not. And at one point, it was not an easy task. You had to jump through many hoops. There were very few ways to get into the union. But once you did, and it wasn't easy, it was like your acceptance. You're in the business now, and you can make your way. You can start to make better money. You can look for better roles. People might take you a little more serious. So it's just kind of like a joy to get there. And once you're there, you're in a pot with a whole bunch of other people, but you got to stand out somehow.
Probably the actor is thinking, oh my gosh, Tom is so successful. How do I do what he's done? Do you have a manager? Do you have an agent? Do you have casting directors? How does somebody submit themselves?
So I use a couple of casting companies that are in the lower Hudson Valley area, my area, and in Manhattan, and in the upper Hudson Valley area, the Newburgh and Poughkeepsie area. So the idea is just to get on as many casting agents' websites and submission forms, just fill them all out on their websites and just be available for the work. You'll get a daily breakdown, and the more casting companies that you're with, the better chance you have of booking some. As a matter of fact, as we were speaking, something just rolled by. I'm doing Pretty Little Liars on Friday, so they were just sending me a confirmation for that just as we were speaking.
Now,
and that's upstate.
Oh, go ahead. Now, with Pretty Little Liars, you just mentioned it. What are your requirements to do that? I know that sometimes you're leaving at 3 in the morning, you're getting fittings. I don't think people realize how much work goes into being in front of the camera or on stage. Tell us about Pretty Little Liars.
Okay, so from what I know, it's a horror movie that's being shown in in like a backyard barn area. And there's Friday the 13th kind of like enthusiasts that are there at this party. And something happens, but they're not telling me, they're not giving me all the detail. All I know is that it's an overnight shoot and it should be a heck of a lot of fun.
Now, when you're saying overnight shoot, just like when I talked about, people don't realize, again, that there's a tremendous amount that goes on before, during, and after a production. You're going to be working overnight on this project?
Yeah, so it'll probably be like a late afternoon call time, maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'll go to probably 2, 3 in the morning. Now, I just did something last weekend, the new Ghostbusters movie, and I worked Saturday and Sunday, and I had to be on set at 4:48 each morning. So I was up at 2:30 both mornings to make sure that I got there on time and had everything that I needed to, get down there, and that was in Manhattan.
Now, you had told me that you were getting scheduled for a fitting. Did you have to wear a certain costume for something that you were doing?
It may have been Ghostbusters. Yes, I think it was Ghostbusters because I had to go for a fitting beforehand. They they have a general idea of what you're going to be doing. So they might ask you to bring a few articles, something to look at. But primarily they'll fit you. They have a full wardrobe there, and they'll just put you in what seems to fit that scene.
What are your goals and aspirations? You've been in it a long time. You're doing film and television and theater now. We're going to talk about the book, but what are some of the things that you would like to be doing as you move forward in the future?
Well, now I'm hoping to do some production work. Hopefully get involved with the filming of the book. I'm going to be writing a second book. I don't know when that will be released, but by the end of the summer, I'm going to start pulling together everything for a second book, which has something to do with this book. So once I get that all in order, I'm going to let you know and, come back and talk to you some more about that. But definitely the production side seems interesting.
Okay, let's talk about Along Came Zita. I brought the book, which I wanted to show everybody because I loved it. Tell us about Zita
Nice, thank you.
Zohan. How was she in your life?
Obviously she turned out to be a blessing in my life. And I met her when I was about 17, 18. And she was in her mid to late 70s at that time. And it was very interesting. I'm just so thrilled that I had her for the short period of time in my life that I did, because I've just learned so much from her. And the story just kind of like flew into my lap, the whole premise of doing this.
Okay, Tom, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
You matter.
You matter.
You matter.
And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire.
Support and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here today. Well, I continue on my conversation with Tom Stratford, who's an actor and an author. And Tom, let's talk about the book. Tell us about Zita. Was she your acting coach? I think that's what she was, your acting teacher at the time?
Yes, she. I was doing theater, and it was suggested to me by one of my classmates that I look into having an acting coach. But I wanted to, continue this as a career. And I thought that's a good idea. So I went to look up for an acting coach, and I found one in the classified section of the local newspaper. That's how you did things. We didn't have internet. We didn't have anything to help you get there other than classified ads. And I found an acting coach that was looking for students of all ages, and I gave her a call. The number was right there, and I called her up and set up a meeting for, I'm pretty sure it was the very next day.
And tell us your experience with her. You were with her for about a year. What was it like?
So it was, I was in the throes of working in theater, so I was taking this all really quite seriously. And she was very inviting. She was very warm, very kind of like a character that you just wanted to be around. And she had kind of like a grandmother type feel to her, and she was just very charming and interesting to me in the fact that she had a history in Hollywood. And I wanted to know as much about that as possible. So I would talk to her about certain eras and certain people, and she kind of like really didn't go into a lot of detail about her past in film, but her first love was theater as well. So she, it was a little kind of like extracting a tooth to get any information out of her, but I did. And she was just a joy to be with. And then just kind of like things started to get a little shaky. She was expecting a little more out of me. as a young man around the house because her house was in need of repair. The landscaping needed some assistance. There was work to be done, and she didn't have those people around her anymore. In her heyday during the 30s and 40s and into the 50s, you know, she had a chauffeur, she had her managers, her agents, she had all these people in her life. But as she got older, they all started to disappear, and she was just kind of like left to fend for her own in a whole new world of entertainment and of media. So she was just trying to keep up. But she was writing her own book and her own screenplay, so she kept herself busy. And I got to read her screenplay, got to read the book, got to study Hamlet with her. She really just kind of, but she knew what she was doing.
Tell us what drove you to write the book. It has such detail from the very beginning of your life and your beginning of knowing her through the end of her life and on to the rest of your life. I mean, it's a very full book. Why did you decide that you wanted to write about her?
Well, the reason why I wanted to write about her is because something was stolen from her at one point in our time together. And after she died, the thing that was stolen from her just happened to fall right into my lap. And I had no choice. I started to do some research on it. I started to find it. I had no luck finding it. So what I started to do was to write everything down that I could remember. So I started at the beginning, and it turned into a story. So the story that was in my head was being written out longhand on like note paper and one notebook after another. I just wrote it all down, just everything, got it all out. So I figured, you know, if I come across this, if there's anything else that I can do to help get this credited back to her, at least I know what the whole story is.
So there's a reason why you wrote the book. Is this something like an homage to her? I mean, is this something that would have made her happy to know that she is now in book form?
Well, I hope so. Everything was timing with her. Everything had to be at the right time, the right prayers to the right gods for the right reasons. It was all about timing and being ready to move on in life. And so I learned that from her. So taking these notes back in 1994, dusting it off, I looked at it periodically over the years, and then I actually dusted it off in 2017 and started speaking with some professionals in the field of writing. Someone that I know, a friend of mine, worked for Marvel Comics, and he's the one that kind of like said, give me the story, let's make a book out of this. Let me help you write this book. And we started working on it, and then he got very busy, and he was in demand to write screenplays. He said, all right, instead of us writing a book together, he said, write me a screenplay. And I'm like, I don't know, a screenplay? So I started working with another friend of mine, and together we developed a novella, which is the whole story about, we took my story that was written on notes, and we put it into book form professionally, and it came out great. The whole story came out great. And I think she would be happy. I think she would be, because she wanted to get her work done, because what was stolen from her showed all signs of it being a film.
Speaking of films, are you hoping to take this into film form? Is there going to be life after this book?
Well, yeah, that's the purpose of writing this book in the format that it's written in is to kind of resemble what a screenplay would be. Novellas kind of read out that way. And it kind of like, as you're reading it, you'll, oh, yes, this is definitely going to make a great screenplay. Half of it is here anyway, which was the whole purpose of writing it this way, was to present it as the story, but in fact, telltale signs of a screenplay.
Now, people will be interested to know that you have your own production company. What are some of the things that you want to do?
So with my production company, it's SOH Productions, Stratford on Hudson, and I have I'm promoting the book on that site. There are a couple of other projects that I would like to start working on over the next couple of years. One is a documentary. The other is now a follow-up book to this. There is another sitcom that I have written out, as well as hopefully at some point what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a small 100-seat community theater, non-for-profit here in Nyack. So I'm also working on that.
Well, it sounds ambitious. How does everything look? I mean, do you have thoughts of what you want to do first?
Well, right now I'm thinking about the book, and any updates and anything that moves along will wind up on the, there is a website for the production company, sohnyack.com. And whatever, as we move along, we're going to do a lot of updates with whatever projects start moving forward. But right now, the main focus is the book. It was just released on May 30th, and it's doing pretty good. Everybody is enjoying the story, and it's getting in front of a couple of people now that have the power and the connections to put some money behind a film production of this. So, you know, it's just get out there, publicize it, and just really kind of like give a story about Zita that a lot of people don't know. You know, she was very famous in the early 30s on Broadway and also in film. And she worked with Boris Karloff, Edward G. Robertson, Helen Hayes. They all kind of started in theater at the same time, and then everybody kind of went there in their career direction.
For the actor that is listening to us now that maybe want to pursue being an author, what would you recommend about them? You're talking that you've had notes for so many years on a certain person. How would somebody be able to move from being an actor into being an author as well, or just an author?
Well, yeah, it's being an author is a full-time job. It's I'm by no means, you know, an educated author, but I was able to work with someone to get my story into a book form and professional, and also had a lot to do with the publishing house that I work with. So if you've got a story, write it out. It can be done. I'm a perfect example of how you can get a book done, even though it took me an awful long time. You can get it done, and you can still have a career at the same time, and, you know, work on many different facets. It's never a story. If you've got to tell it.
What does the future look like for you with let's say the film gets made about this book? What are you hoping past that? The film is your next goal from the book?
So the film, yes, from the book, and then the book that's inside of the book, Zita's book, her story and her screenplay are also written into this book, into this storyline. So what like I said, what I want to do now is, out of the book, I want to rewrite her book. So I have the play, and from the play, I can start to piece together everything that I remember and credit her work back to her. And that's a film version in itself. So it's almost like you're getting a double whammy. With one book, you're getting a double whammy.
It's so true. Well, we're starting to run out of time. I know it's going fast, isn't it? Any closing thoughts for the viewer? I mean, we've talked to the actor about performing. We've talked to the actor about being an author. What would your thoughts be about the industry in general? Is it worth pursuing at all?
Well, of course, yeah, it's definitely worth pursuing it all. It's a business, so you have to treat it as a business, and it's not easy. It's not for everyone. I know so many people that have gotten involved in this business and they're doing background work, and they're getting some nice featured background work, and it's as a second career after they've retired from something that they've been doing for 30 years. So it depends on what you want out of this business, and what you put into it is what you can get out of it. But it's just, it's not easy, and again, it's not for everyone. But listen, if it's in your system to go and do it, go and do it. There's so many productions going on in the New York area, into Connecticut, so many casting companies that you can sign on with, and just give it a whirl and see if it's something that, you know, really catches your fancy.
Okay, well, Tom, again, thank you so much for being here. It's so great having you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Deb. It's so good to see you. You look great, by the way.
Okay, thanks. You too. I'm so glad to see you. And again, to
Good
the
to see
audience,
you.
thanks so much for being here. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You have been tuned in Arts and Entertainment. In case you want to volunteer for the program, please contact me. I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. So I hope you have a super day. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.